So you want to work for Emirates, but you want to know how much they're going to pay you. Yeah, money makes the world go around, my friends. So good question to ask. Emirates salary is actually the most asked question that I've had so far. So in order to make sure that you know exactly how much you'll be earning, I'll be sharing updated data that I got from a few sources about the Emirates salary, but also I'll share my own pay slips as I went progressing through the years. So you'll get to know everything today, from allowances, bonuses, everything that you need to know exactly how much you'll be earning. All right, let's do this. All right, first of all, let me tell you that I could have just shown you my payslip for my first few years in Emirates. I actually have it, but the reality is that I joined Emirates in 2010. So that was a long time ago. And because of inflation and everything, of course, salaries have changed. So I decided to do a little digging to make sure that I give you accurate information. So first of all, you're gonna have your basic salary. This is the minimum amount that you're going to be paid every single month, no matter how many hours you fly. When I first joined and I was in economy class, my basic salary was 3,900 dirhams, which equals to 1,063 US dollars. Nowadays, if you're just starting out, your basic salary as an economy crew is of 4,835 dirhams, which is about 1,315 US dollars. Then when I moved up to business class, my basic salary increased to 4,750 dirhams, which equals to $1,293. And as a supervisor, I earned 5,900 dirhams, which equals to 1,600 US dollars. That's only the basic salary, by the way. So again, keep in mind that this salary only includes the basics. It does not include your flying hours, which is what really adds up and makes your salary much bigger. As a side note, you should keep into consideration the sick leave policy. See, as cabin crew, and this, it doesn't really matter which grade you are allowed to have 15 paid sick days, which means that if you exceed those 15 days per calendar year, you will unfortunately will not be paid for any extra days. So they're going to start deducting for each single day extra from those 15 days that you're sick, they're going to start deducting from your basic salary, which kind of sucks, but that's the policy. Like I said, this sick day policy is per calendar year. So your sick days will restart every single year in January. So hourly pay. Now here is where the salary really takes off. The thing is that we need to make sure you know what constitutes a flying hour, right? Because you may think that it's only the hours that you spend in the sky, but that's not really it. Your flying hours are calculated from chokes on, chokes off. So yes, it is essentially when you start flying. But there are a few exceptions to this. So if you have a delay on the ground that's over, I can't remember if it was an hour or two, it was around that, they start paying you for every single hour that you're on ground. And you may think, oh, how long are we gonna be on ground for? Let me tell you that I'd been on ground for 5-6 hours because rain, snow, problems at the airport, strikes, you name it. So yes, it can happen. And yes, Emirates does pay you, which is awesome. When I first started flying, it wasn't really part of your flying hours if you had a delay, but a few years after, it did become part of it. They did listen to us, and that was great. The other hours they also pay you for is if you're doing a turnaround flight, which means you leave from Dubai, you land somewhere else that's nearby. It can be in Qatar and Jordan and Egypt, whatever it is, that's a turnaround flight. And you come back during the same day, then that's a turnaround flight. And those hours you spent on the ground, because you don't really leave the aircraft, those are also paid for. And as per how much flying hours are, when I first started flying, each flying hour was 45 dirhams, which is 12 US dollars. But today, new cabin crew earn 66 dirhams, which is around 18 US dollars. By the time I left Emirates and I was a supervisor, I was earning around 100 dirhams per flying hour, which is around 27 US dollars. I'm sure that probably has changed and it's a little bit more because of inflation. They do adjust salaries. So yeah, trust me, these flying hours are where you'll notice that big difference. There's also extra things that you may get money for. Like for example, if you take a duty-free position on the flight, you're going to earn commissions for every sale that you make, which is great. And I did meet a lot of people who tried to get the duty-free position on every flight, because if you only get it once a month, then yeah, you probably wouldn't see the difference. But if you get it every month, then you would see your paycheck grow. And if you're looking to save and to make more money, I think this is actually a great way to do it, because what else are you going to be doing if you're not doing duty free? You're going to be doing other sorts of like chores and just, going to check the toilets, attending to call bells. I mean, I'd much rather be making money. So a little advice for you: if you do get hired, try to learn duty free as fast as you can and try to get assigned the duty free position. If you like selling, if you don't like selling, then don't. But essentially, I think it's a great way to make money. Now, let's talk about another thing that also gives you a good amount of money every month, which are your layover allowances. So essentially, when you get to a port elsewhere, so I don't know, you have a layover in London, you have a layover in Paris, you have a layover in Rio, Sydney, wherever you're going, you're gonna get money given to you as soon as you arrive there. And the amount of money that you're gonna get is gonna cover whatever meals you're gonna need for the amount of time you're there. And that also depends on when you're arriving. So if you're arriving early in the morning, it's gonna cover your breakfast, it's gonna cover your lunch, and it's gonna cover your dinner, because you're gonna be leaving the next day, let's say, before breakfast, right? And it kind of works like that. How much each allowance is, I can't really tell you. Imagine that Emirates has over 120 destinations, and not all of those are layovers, but a large amount are. And it really does depend on the currency and the amount of meals and whatnot. But I can give you an example. In some London flights, I used to get £50 for 24 hours there. I remember a Milan flight that was a really extensive layover. I got around €90. So yeah, it also depends on how expensive the hotel where you're staying is, because sometimes you don't really get a discount in some restaurants. So what they do is they give you more money. But if the hotel does offer a discount, then, you wouldn't really get that much money. I remember when I first joined that we had this layover in, I think it was Luanda. Yes, it was Luanda. And everyone used to bid for it because the allowance was around $500. Because as you know, well, you may not know, I didn't know at the time, but it's one of the most expensive places in the world. And it was $500. We all wanted to do that flight because you would just go for like a day or two and then you would just get all of this money. And a lot of people, what they do is that they take food from home, first of all, to eat healthy, which is, what I recommend you do. What I used to do in the last few years, I used to try to take food, to eat on the plane, and then a few snacks for the layover. And that's also a really good way to save your money. It really does make the difference. I did also meet a lot of people who tried to live from their allowances, which is valid. I mean, to me, it was just a lot of sacrifice and I just didn't want to do that. So I didn't. But I did meet a lot of people who did do that, and they really were able to save. So something to consider. Next, we have allowances. And this is a bit tricky because there are allowances. So you've got your live out allowance, which is the money that the company will give you for you to pay for rent, or I don't know if you bought a home for your home, right? Then there's the other situation, which is the majority of crew live in this situation, which is living in company accommodation. I actually don't know if it's the majority of crew that live in accommodation, but I'm assuming it probably is. So Emirates has company provided accommodations. They are super comfortable. You get everything there. You have all your appliances. You've got, your bed, mattress, sofa, all the basics. If you want extra things like a TV or, that type of stuff, you do need to buy it. But then the rest, the basics are all there for when you arrive, which is awesome. But a lot of people do want to live outside of accommodation. And to be honest with you, I lived outside of accommodation for the majority of my time in Emirates. I only lived in accommodation the first 2.5, 3 years. And then I had the chance to move out because they needed people to move out in order to make room for the new recruits to come in and live in their accommodations. So I got lucky. Now that's not really the case. So if you do want to live outside of accommodation and for Emirates to pay you your live out allowance, then there are a few conditions that you need to meet. For example, either you need to have a family member living here in Dubai with you. So I don't know, maybe your brother, your sister lives here, your parents, whatever it is. You present the proof that they live here and then they'll give you the money and you can live outside. Or maybe you are married and your husband lives in Dubai, then you can also live outside. In my case, it was, like I said, they needed the room, so I was able to live outside. That may happen again. I don't know. I know they're very well organized with their accommodations. They've built so many buildings to put the crew in, so I'm not sure that's going to be happening anytime soon, but it can always happen. I mean, it happened to me. And the amount of allowance that you receive, I received 5,900 dirhams per month for live-out allowance, plus 480 dirhams or $130 for transport allowance. And this is also an allowance that you get if you live outside, because when you do live in crew accommodation, they provide transport for you. So you have the crew buses and they take you to work, and from work back to your accommodations. You don't really need to pay for any transport. This live out allowance made a huge difference for me because I remember that I was able to rent an apartment at a really decent price at a very nice area of Dubai. And I didn't even spend it all. I saved part of it, which was great. As the prices went up, my rent remained the same. So yeah, I was able to save a lot of money, which is great. The allowance that you're gonna get really does depend on your grade. When you're a supervisor, you get a little more than the other grades, and when you're a purser, you also get a bit more than the rest of the grades. But in general, it's definitely livable. I used to live by myself and I was able to afford it. Right now, Dubai is a little expensive when it comes to accommodation, but if you adjust here and there, you could also live on your own. It also depends on the type of apartment you want. Do you want a studio? Do you want a one bedroom? Do you want a house? Which is a bit of a stretch here because it's, if you just want a house for yourself, because they're a little expensive. But yeah, in general, it's totally doable to live by yourself if you want to, or you could also get a roommate if you're by yourself. The other thing that you should consider as part of this whole salary scheme is all the benefits that you're going to get, because they're not minor. And I realize that now that I live in Dubai and I'm not cabin crew, because I'm like, shoot, now I have to pay full price for everything, and that's not always fun. So I try to find where there are bargains for stuff. But in general, when you're crew, you do get different cards that give you discounts. So first of all, you've got your face card, which is this pink card that gives you anything from 50 to 10% off in different places, restaurants, to get your nails done, hair done, whatever it is that you need, you get lots of discounts. You also get lots of access to different places. So if you want to go spend the day at a resort by the beach, you get free entry, and then you get huge discounts on the food. So that's amazing. You can do great activities and get to really see Dubai also for different things. I'm not sure what type of activities they're promoting now, but I even when my family came and visited, I took them to a safari in the desert and I was able to get them a discount. So yeah, these are things that add up, Then you've got your platinum card, and this card, it's optional. You pay around 25 dirhams or so per month for this card, but it was totally worth it because I remember I used to get even bigger discounts than I would with my face card, yearly access to big gyms, which was amazing, and different activities, also to discounts at a supermarket, which much needed. Sometimes you can bring a little food from outside. I used to try and do my shopping outside, but I don't know how strict they are now with that. They started to get strict the last few years I was there, but I would always do my grocery shopping outstation. It would have been fine. It was fine all the time. But yeah, if you do need to buy stuff here, you do get a big supermarket discount with that card. So these are things to keep in mind because you honestly end up saving a lot of money. So how much could you potentially earn per month? This is mostly going to depend on your flying hours, like I said before. And just so you have an idea, the maximum amount of hours that you can fly per month is around 110 hours, and that's a regulation that's set by the GCAA, which is the body that regulates everything and anything aviation related for safety and whatnot. I would say an average of flying hours, looking at pay slips, it would be around 90 to 100 hours, because you also have to remember that you have paid leave during the year. Those are 30 days plus, your days off and whatnot. So yeah, you do get a little less flying hours, but yeah, that's how much you're gonna earn. So on top of your basic salary, you're going to add your flying hours, which can be anything from 0 to 110 hours. Before we get to the end of this video, I want to recommend one of my favorite videos from this channel, which is about crazy passengers stories that I've had on board. So I think you'll really enjoy it. So I'm just gonna leave it somewhere up here and in the description so you can just take a look. So to wrap this up, honestly, I think Emirates pays a good salary. It has really great benefits. You get medical, you get dental, you get a bunch of different things. You can get discounts on like your car insurance and that type of stuff. And of course, all the discounts that you get when flying. You can even get discounts at selected hotels that Emirates and Donata have partnerships with. So you end up saving a lot. But in general, for me personally, what was important and what I take away from my years and for my 10 years at Emirates is the amount of traveling I did, the amount of amazing people I met, all the things I was able to do. And I feel like that's the most important thing. But of course, we need money to survive. So I don't know. I hope you found this useful. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can always drop them in the comments. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.